we need to talk about regionalism in hip-hop. I feel like with the internet and the variance of features on different albums, we've kind of forgot about this.
We live in the age of genre fusions and regionalist music. There's a lot of people collaborating across state lines or country lines or language lines.
Even with the underground, it's not really starring in like New York, like how it was in the 90s, or in Atlanta, like how it was in 2010s. It's not a secret at all that ATL is like the birthplace of a lot of artists, and that's where they're more popular. Young Thug, Future, the Migos, they're like gods in Atlanta. Even in Chicago, you know, Chief Keef, G Herbo, even Lucky a little bit. These people were very regionally known before they were globally or nationally known. Listening to this Metro Boomin album he just put out, it made me think about regionalism and how it's shifted and the history of it and how we can see it in the modern day. Because if this album is anything, it's an Atlanta producer with Atlanta features, Atlanta artists, with Atlanta themes and Atlanta production for an Atlanta audience, which is not too far off from Kendrick's GNX he just dropped a while ago with California themes, California artists, California production. And in the Venn diagram between these two albums, like in the middle, you have this almost fuck you don't understand it, like this is my shit, either you understand it or you don't type of mentality to it. Both these albums have a you get it or you don't unapologetic like authenticity to it, which is a far cry from the Drake or like the Weeknd type of mindset of just trying to get as many people under the umbrella as possible, trying to be as widely appealable, which is like the status quo. Most people who are up and coming want to be as widely advertised and widely relevant as possible. This is why we see these regional and these like risk-taking, either you get it or you don't, I'm not going to pander to you or slow the game down for you type of releases from older artists. So you saw Tyler the Creator with his type of like LA, hyphy, like hype type of album he just dropped. He's like 34, you know. Kendrick, he's like 40, you know what I mean? Metro Boomin has been in the game for like 10 plus years. We already know his name. But I wanted to highlight some examples of regionalism in hip-hop in the current day and the history of it. So just for the purpose of time, I'm not going to go back to the 80s or 70s. I'm saying the 90s is where we're going to start. So 90s, East Coast, New York, mostly the dominant area for rap and hip-hop. So boom bap, sampling, just the general storytelling element, telling stories that people see and go through every day. Very physical, very hand-to-hand, obviously like playing cassettes and CDs and stuff like that. It was very, very regional. If you told people about Biggie in like Texas, they'd be like, who the fuck is that? Or at least the stature of like a Nas or obviously B.I.G. or Wu-Tang Clan would be heavily stunted outside of their regional hearth, their regional area, their like little circle, right? And obviously there's like a yin-yang opposite effect in the West Coast with, you know, Snoop Dogg, Pac, Nate Dogg, then obviously E40 in the Bay with like hyphy shit. But obviously don't forget about Outkast in the South and holding down Atlanta. But I wanted to give kind of a post-2000s, 2010s to 2020s small little recap in the history of regionalism. Obviously with streaming platforms and other distributors, you don't need to pass out cassettes or CDs or anything at all. No mixtapes really being passed out by hand anymore. That makes the music industry much more spread out, but also more exclusive. Most people who are famous everywhere, not famous just in that little city or a little town. Honestly, nowadays, if you're just famous in your city, you're probably not famous at all. But in general, as we approach the 2010s, the lines blurred, the boundaries kind of fizzled away. People are listening to everything, everywhere, all at once. But there are three uniting scenes/events: cloud rap/blog rap. Two, I would have just a general SoundCloud scene, and then three, I'd have Chicago drill. Chicago drill is the most actually physically regional of the three I mentioned. It was such a big scene and such a broadcasted scene in the 2010s. You saw people trying to take advantage of it. Cough, cough, academics, war in Chirac. And there's so much parallel here to New York and LA 90s regionalism, as there's obviously diss tracks. People were being mentioned through songs. Most famously, Tuka, you know, obviously getting dissed. I don't want to laugh at that. But like generally, there was a lot of, I know you, I'm gonna put you in a song. I don't like you, I'm gonna put you in a song. I love you, I'm gonna put you in a song. General old school nature of shouting out people, dissing people, and talking about your daily experience. This scene, obviously the violence in the scene, claimed lots and lots and lots of lives. The ones that we do know that are famous, FBG Duck, Pharoah Santana, King Von. But this drill scene did blow up some artists like G Herbo, Lil Durk, Chief Keef, And overall, the environment shaped the music, and the music also shaped the environment. Things that happened in these songs happened in real life, and things that happened on these songs happened in real life after they were talked about on the song. And obviously with academics and the War on Chirac YouTube series he had, there was like almost an open mic night level of like spotlight on the middleman who was the victim of the week or the perpetrator of the week. And breaking down academics' sheer evilness for releasing that, that's a whole video on itself, so I'm not gonna worry about that for too much longer. But I'm gonna talk about the blog rap / cloud rap era. More specifically, the LA Loiter Squad, Earl Sweatshirt, Tyler the Creator, and others. And if you think about it too, Kendrick's involved in there. And if you couldn't tell already, blog era would mean that they're getting music through blogs, how they share their music instead of physically walking through the streets and passing out CDs. Like older times, they share stuff through like blogs, random forums, even places like Reddit or like DatPiff. And even if these places aren't literally physical, they're so small and they're so interconnected that they might as well be real places. Like sharing links on DatPiff is much different than how we would share a link through YouTube or TikTok. Much more niche, much more contained, and much more meaningful, I think. I would say people who thrived in this era: A$AP Rocky, Young Lean, Blade. Obviously can't forget Lil B and his influence, but in general this was an era for people who wanted to make more spacey, more cloudy, emotional, introspective sounds that weren't really too prominent in the main rap sphere. And these people also came in to lead the SoundCloud era. Blog folk era rappers became mainstream. For example, Mac Miller, Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt. These people came from the underground to become much more prominent, and they kind of dictated the styles and the sounds. So onto the SoundCloud rappers. This is around 2017, 2016. This is just honestly a continuation of the blog era. Also a continuation of older styles of sampling and trying to use workarounds like SoundCloud to ultimately dodge fines or sample clearances because of obviously low budget and not being mainstream yet. And with the digital age, there's so much more avenues that opened up during the SoundCloud era, which is, leaking, the whole business of leaking, like group buys and trying to steal opens and shit like that. But becoming a SoundCloud rapper was its own thing, almost a new genre in and of itself. And a SoundCloud rapper usually took mannerisms or cadences from Atlanta artists, such as a Young Thug or a Migos, loud, aggressive ad-libs, obviously drug use, lots of flexing, lots of outlandish bars, some of them like offensive, right? Like the shining stars of this era were Cardi with his obviously wild off-the-wall vocals, Uzi with his crazy melodies and his very catchy songs, and X with like everything, especially the aggression part and the ad-libs. But in general, still, I think Atlanta dominated this era. 21 Savage, Cardi, Lil Baby. But I'd say like post 2018, 2019, TikTok has kind of taken over that space, that sphere where music is found. That's why Yeet and a lot of the opium rappers found their way through the internet, through TikTok, instead of SoundCloud or blogs. That's because TikTok obviously promotes sounds and music being spread across countries and across states. But there still is definitely regionalism. You see a lot in the DMV scene, the samples they have. And then in Michigan, obviously they stick together. V's, Babyface Ray, Real the Young OG, obviously Babytron, Shitty Boys. A lot of New York artists, like especially drill artists, stick together. But that could be its own video. So I'm just going to leave that at that. That's the video. Like and sub and all that. Stay tuned.